So we have Jayadev sir joined us. So let me just spotlight. Sir. Hi sir. Thank you very much for.
Good afternoon to everyone. Andariki namaskaram. What time is program eppudu modalaindandi?
So I'll give you. So Charcha and we wanted to have a virtual youth parliament for people to start engaging in, and especially in Telugu states, because we don't have much of these organizations, sir. So the last week we called for applications last month. We got more than 170 applications from diverse backgrounds of people, and then we selected 40 applications. So these are the 40 participants we have from, and we divide them into two parties. So the last 1 week, they have been actively engaging in drafting two bills. One is education bill, and the other is strengthening rural economy. So both the teams have been working on two bills independently over the last 1 week with some mentors from the domain expertise. So today and tomorrow, we thought today we'll have them have some interactions with professionals who are working closely with parliamentarians to see how bills work in the house, how a lot of efforts goes both from the professionals and the member of parliaments to draft or discuss a bill. So as a process, we thought it would be great to have somebody like you who is one of the most active parliamentarians from the Telugu states and also in the country to interact with us, with the participants, and give your insights as in what made you take up politics and your experience in parliament, and maybe answer some questions of the aspirants, future aspirants, or people who are interested in policy and politics.
Thank you, Shravan. It's my pleasure to be interacting with all of you. It's always a pleasure to be interacting with young people who have a bent of mind to look at politics and public service more specifically as an option, perhaps as a career, perhaps as a additional activity, a commitment, whatever you may call it, but people who are involving themselves at a very young age in these type of issues. I think it's always a delight to be interacting with a group like you. So shall I start out maybe making my opening statements and opening remarks, and then we can take a Q&A, or is there anything else you'd like to do first?
Yes, that would be great. Yes, that would be perfect. If you can just start with your session, then we'll go on with it.
Sure. So good afternoon to everyone, and a very happy Independence Day. It's a good occasion to be interacting with like-minded people who have the commitment to the country and commitment to democracy and commitment to building our future together. It's very good to see so many young faces. And it's a pleasure to be interacting with you all on this very important day and on this very important subject about your involvement in politics and policy making. Let me start by sharing a few of my own life experiences and life story. Well, I moved to the United States in 1970 when I was 4 years old. Prior to that, I was born in a village in Chittoor district, Digomagam, just out about 20-25 kilometers from Chittoor town. I was born in that village, and I lived first 4 years of my life in that village. And I moved to the US along with my sister and my mother to join my father, who had already moved 2 years prior to that to do his master's degree at Michigan State University. So we joined him, and at the time we joined him, we were, I didn't know anything other than Telugu at that time, me and my sister. And I started learning English only after going to America. In 1974, my grandfather, my mother's father, P. Rajgopal Naidu, who was also a freedom fighter in India. He fought for freedom as a follower of Professor N.G. Ranga, Acharya N.G. Ranga, who was one of the stalwarts from our state in the freedom struggle. And he remained as a lifelong follower of NG Ranga, lifelong Sishya of NG Ranga. So his political career followed NG Ranga's political career. I remember my grandfather telling me a story how he entered politics. When he was in college, he was studying a bachelor's degree at Anantapur Arts College at that time, doing his Bachelor of Arts degree. And he said, when I was in college lo unnappudu nenu communist party lo unnanu. And he said that in those days all students used to be communists. So when during the freedom struggle, Ranga garu came to Anantapur to address a public meeting in the college. So he and his friends went to that public meeting to disturb the meeting, to heckle and to disturb him and to shout him off the stage. So when they went and Ranga garu maatladetappudu speech ichetappudu veellu modulu pettaranta. And so Ranga Tataya, he was very patient with them and he answered all their questions very patiently. Whatever they were throwing at him, he was answering back to them without getting them thrown out or doing anything else like that. He was very patient with them, and he was so impressed that from that day onwards, he became a lifelong follower of NG Ranga. And he fought for the freedom. He was jailed. He spent years in jail. His wife my grandmother also was jailed. And so ultimately, they were able to succeed. I think you guys know the rest of the story. But all of this I used to hear only in, from my parents about it and things like that as I started getting older. In 1974, when I was 8 years old, my grandfather came to visit us in Chicago, in USA. So those are my first conscious memories, because I don't remember much before I was 4 years old. I only remember everything after 4 because it was such a traumatic experience to move to America. So those thoughts, getting on the plane, getting down in Chicago, going in that snow to our apartment, being in that apartment, stuck in that apartment for, so many hours together, not being able to go outside, all those memories I have. But I don't remember anything before I moved to America. So 74, when my grandfather came to visit, are my first conscious memories. And I remember he came in his typical Gandhian style with pancha, dhoti and the jubba and towel and everything. And he came to America also like that. And he was planning to come to visit my school at that time. I was in third grade or second or third class I was studying. He wanted to visit my school and I was very scared. If they see this man like this, what's going to happen to me? Because back then in that school, my sister and I are the only 2 non-white students in the entire school. There are no black students, there's no Hispanic students, there's no other students of any other nationality. The only 2 non-white students in that kindergarten to 5th class school was only me and my sister. So this is early 70s, you have to remember. If you think that racism is there today, you should have seen in 1970 what the racism was like. Because it's only a few years after the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement in America was in 1960s, and we moved in 1970. So we came just at that time when things were still in a very disturbed state through the civil rights movement. And minorities were still not treated very fairly. And our entire endeavor in that school was to fit in. We don't want to be different, we want to be the same. Because we don't want to stand out, we don't want to be noticed also, right? Because in that environment. So Tataya వచ్చేటప్పటికి మాకు భయం వేసింది ఆ స్కూల్కి తీసుకెళ్తే మాకు ఏమైపోతుందని. But it was quite a pleasant surprise for us the way he was received in the school by the teachers, by the principal, even by the other students, with so much of respect and so much of admiration. Because he gave a lecture in my class also, and he spoke for half an hour. And after that, I think all the students were able to also appreciate him. And actually, it helped my image rather than hurting my image in the school. So that's the first time that I got the confidence to be myself, not be worried about being different, and to be myself and be okay. I can get accepted no matter what. I can be comfortable in my own skin, and I don't have to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. So that was a very important lesson for me. And that was also that summer when my grandfather was there, we did a lot of traveling in the United States. We visited, along with him, we drove from Chicago to Florida. And along the way, we stopped in Springfield, Illinois, where Abraham Lincoln was born, the capital of Illinois State. We stopped at many farmers along the way, stayed with the farmers in their homes to understand what their lifestyle was like. This is 1974 I'm talking about. Bunch of rednecks in southern part of US. There also, we were a little bit apprehensive what might happen. Because the southern part of the United States has more racism than other parts of the United States. And these are good old farmers who might not have had much interaction with anybody other than their own kind for most of their life. But it was very heartening to see how the farmer in them and the farmer in him were able to connect. The minute he started talking about the difficulties and the challenges of farmers in India, you could see their faces change. Now they felt that they're talking to one of their own people rather than somebody else. So the farmer to farmer bonding was very good, and that was also very impressive for me. When we were in Springfield, my grandfather bought me a book on Lincoln, about Lincoln's life story. And I read that book, and in that book it said that Abraham Lincoln was the first farmer's son, poor farmer's son, to become president of the United States. So then I told my father, after reading that book, I said, I want to be the first immigrant's son to become president of the United States. So he sat me down, he said, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but unless you're born in this country, you cannot be president. So then I said, well, then I want to go back to India and I'll go into politics in India. This is at the time I'm 8 years old. I said, if I can't become president, I'll become prime minister. So, I mean, there's a young dreams, childhood dreams and things like that. So that's how first entered my mind to come back to India and to enter politics in India. That was the genesis of that idea, I would say. So anyway, after that, we got back into finishing our education, went through grade school, went through high school, went to college. And in college, I went to University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign to study electrical engineering, because that's what my parents want me to study. So I qualified. It was one of the top schools in America for electrical engineering. I thought, okay, good, I was able to prove myself. I went to college. Just at that time, as I was entering college, my parents moved back to India in 1984. I was graduating from high school, and they moved back to India to start this Amar Raja group of industries, just as I was entering college that time. So in college, after a couple of years of studying engineering, I felt that this is not my subject. I don't want to be an engineer. Even if I finish this course, I don't want to be an engineer. I want to go into politics. That's my dream. So I reaffirmed the earlier thoughts I had in my childhood and said, this is what I want to do. I want to go back to India. I want to enter politics. So after 2 years of engineering, I dropped out of engineering. I went and spoke to the dean. I dropped out of engineering, shifted my subject to political science and economics. And then I called my father to tell him this is what I've done. So he said, then is you thinking about it or you already done it? I said, I've already done it. I've spoken to you many times hinting that I may do it, but now I've done it. So he said, why are you calling me then if it's already done? And he put the phone down. And for 1 year, he didn't speak to me. So that is the type of challenge I think I'm sure all of you would also be facing. If you're talking about entering politics, I'm sure that your families are probably not very encouraging, because that's how politics have become today. It's such a dirty field and dirty position, and no respect from the public because of the way that the culture and values have changed in the politics, basically. So it's not an easy road. You know, after completing my graduation, I worked for a few years in America. Then I moved back to India in 1992. I got married in 91 and I moved back in 92. And Ashok, my first son, was also born in 92. So within 12 months, I went from being a bachelor living in Chicago to being married, having a son, and living in Tirupati, all in the span of 12 months. So it was a big culture shock, you know, start going from one culture to another and one status to another, and being single to being married and having a son, all of that by the age of 26. So I think that was a culture shock, and it took me, you know, definitely even with the idea of wanting to enter politics, in spite of having that strong desire to do it, in spite of having the family background and involvement. My mother, I'm sure you're also familiar that she was also a very active politician and former minister in the AP government, undivided AP. And in spite of having financial resources and strong political backing and connection with the people, it took me 22 years from the time I came back to India to actually make my first step of contesting. That's not what I expected. You know, I came back thinking that I want to enter politics, but I want to contest by the time I'm 40 years old. I was 25, 26 when I moved back to India. At least before 40, I want to contest is what I told myself. But after moving back, I mean, the industry, the business was still at a very early stages, just starting to be built, still startup stage. We're still not very financially secure. All the money, whatever we made in America, that while my father was in America, he left half of his savings for me to finish my college. And he brought the other half back with him. And that's how he started his business in India. In those days, I think probably with about $50,000 is what he started his business. My grandfather on my mother's side was a freedom fighter and a politician and a parliamentarian a legislator and a parliamentarian. He had almost a 50-year political career. But in that 50 years, his net worth only went down, it didn't go up. I think every election he would sell 1 acre of land to pay for his election. And that's how he used to conduct himself. Very simple man, Gandhian, never had a car also. You know, as an MP in Chittoor, he used to take bus from his village to the Chittoor town to attend to his office. So that's the kind of lifestyle he led. And when we had to work hard to build up the industry and build up our financial capability. Also, my mother was already active in politics, and we couldn't afford at that time for more than one person to be active, and she was still in her prime and still active and still growing. So I decided, okay, it's time to support her and let her grow as long as possible. And by that time, we can at least get more financially secure before I make my entry. So I worked in my first political campaign for my mother in her second election in 94. 89, when she first contested, I wasn't in the country that time. I was still in college. In her first election, my mother won by 200 votes in Chandragiri on Congress ticket. She won her first election. In fact, there were almost 30 booths that had been rigged in that election. And we fought for the repolling in those 30 booths. Finally, they allowed us to get the repolling done in 2 booths. And because of that repolling only, she was able to win that election. So very narrow margin, and she won that election. 94, my first election, which I saw, she lost that election. So the very first election I ever saw being conducted and participated in, we lost it. So that was my first experience in Indian politics, is a loss. So then, of course, following 2000, after 94, 99, 2004, 2009, she's able to win all the 3 elections after that. 2004 and 2009, I was the campaign manager. I ran the campaign for her and managed the entire campaign for her. In fact, 2009 election, I even wrote a case study. I think, Shravan, you can get a copy of that case study. It's quite an interesting case study that I've done on the 2009 election. Finally, I was able to make my entry in 2014, and I won in 2014 and followed up with the win in 2019. So that's been my career and how I've come to where I am today. The message I want to give all of you is that the youth has to play a very transformational role by bringing about social change with your creative and innovative thought processes. Even historically, the youth have participated, contributed, and even catalyzed very important changes in the political systems, power sharing dynamics, and economic opportunities all over the world. In fact, if you analyze every major revolution that has happened anywhere in the world, has always started with youth and students. The beginning of every revolution, the spark of every revolution starts with students and youth. So if there's going to be any type of major revolutionary changes that have to come, it's not going to be initiated by the politicians. They're entrenched. They have every reason to not change the system. Whoever's in power wants to retain power. They don't want to change the system and lose the power. So these type of revolutionary changes, they have to be from civil society. And within civil society, it has to come from the youth. You can see anywhere in the world that it's happened, this has been the case. So there are many platforms that youth can participate in. I'm sure all of you are familiar with many of them and already participating. Yuva Galam is one example here. I was also very actively involved in CII, in Young Indians, in Roundtable, and in both EO and YPO. So even before I entered politics, I was trying to get involved in a lot of different organizations, because getting involved in these type of organizations help you in a number of different ways. First of all, they help you to get familiar with all the issues, national issues, international issues, global challenges. These are the type of things that in a normal course, if you're working or studying, you may not be having much exposure to. These organizations give you exposure to more of these type of subjects. Secondly, they give you an opportunity to network and make friends across the state, across the country, across the world. And those networks can be maintained in order to share diverse experiences and have a diverse base of friends that you can interact with, use as a resource for many different things. Also, it helps you to hone your leadership skills, your administrative skills. Taking up leadership responsibilities in these organizations are a first step. And I think, many people enter politics without having done all these preliminary things. They really have to start with a big disadvantage. So I think all of you are ahead of the curve on that by participating in these type of programs. You're showing your interest, you're showing your competence, you're creating your networks, and you're also developing your leadership skills. See, when we first attained independence, the average age of MPs in the Lok Sabha was 46 years old. Now in the 17th Lok Sabha, the average age has gone to 54. That is my age. People think I'm young, right? 54 is considered young. That's what the shame is, right? That even as a 54-year-old man, I'm still considered as a young leader. Imagine how many old leaders there are in this country, right? We have one of the youngest countries, both in terms of years since independence and also in terms of average age. But we have among the oldest leadership, whether it's in the center especially. if you look among the MPs and the cabinet ministers and everything else, everybody is very old, and I don't know how much stake they have in the future of the country, and on what basis they're making decisions. The average age is 27, and 25% of the population is also between the age of 25 and 40. So that means 75% of Indians are below the age of 40. Only 25% are above the age of 40. I also believe that politics should not be one's profession, should not be viewed as a profession. You know, the idea of democratic institutions, especially democratic legislatures, whether it's parliament or state legislatures, is that you have to be a citizen legislator, not a professional legislator. You should have, the legislature should be full of people with diverse experiences from different walks of life and different skills and different skill sets, different knowledge, to bring where they've already gained some level of proficiency and leadership in some area, and then enter into the legislature. They'll be able to bring in those experiences, those perspectives into policy making. I think that's what is very important. So I would also encourage all of you, while I'm saying you should be entering politics, I don't suggest that you enter politics straight out of college or without having experienced life, experienced loss, experienced hardship, experienced the difficulties of growing in a career and gaining leadership in some field. I think if you do all of that and enter politics, it will be a much more rich experience for you and a lot more valuable for the country and for whether it's a parliament or the legislature, to be able to add value to the proceedings. Also, there seems to be a trend that there's less involvement, and even among youth. I think I need to get the feedback from you, but what has been the voter turnout among youth? You know, 18 to 24-year-olds, the first-time voters. What is the turnout in that age group? Is it going up or going down? The feeling I get is it's going down, but I'm ready to be corrected if I'm wrong on that. But that apathy among youth is something that needs to be addressed and corrected also. So that's a few things I wanted to share with all of you. I don't know how, I've already talked for maybe more than I expected to. And I think now, Shravan, we'll be ready to go to some questions and answers.
Thank you very much. I think we'll let some of the participants have wrote some questions in the chat box. We'll let them ask the question. I think first could be Gautam. Can you ask your question?
Sir, a very happy Independence Day to everyone. So my name is Gautam Gardam. I am from Chittoor district. I am a chartered accountant final student, sir, presently. Sir, I am also happy to say this to you that my father is an employee for last 20 years in your esteemed institution of Amar Raja Group of Companies. Sir, my question is it not important for political parties to have a option called career in their respective websites, where the enthusiastic people like me who have no political background or no political affiliation can put forward their talent, and the party can filter the talented and can have a pool of these talented minds who can be accommodated in respective structure of the party building, or providing them a chance to contribute for the strengthening of the party, thereby the society. And like how corporate companies have a career option in their respective websites, where the talented can have a chance to put forward their passion and enthusiasm, sir. This is my question in brief.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. But I think already all the major parties have the youth wings, student wings, youth wings, the frontal organizations those are meant to be the platforms for this type of entry and development and talent management, and being able to be exposed to more senior leaders. So I would suggest that you get involved in those youth wings of the party, whichever party you may be interested in. I think all the parties have such frontal organizations, and those are always a good way to get started.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Maria said you can go next.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Hello, Jai sir. It was a delight to listen to you speak. Thank you so much for your eloquent experiences. I had a question. As you said that there are youth wings in all political parties, and I'm a part of AAP Youth Wing. So I had a question to you that is it better to be part of a political party to bring a revolution, or to work individually or with an NGO? Because I'm asking this because it's advantageous to be with a party, but you have to deal with all the propaganda by the opposition. Because AAP has been accused a lot of times by BJP in Congress, and it's just a lot of stuff that you have to deal with, and you cannot focus on making considerable change. So what do you suggest?
So as I was saying earlier, that anybody who is in an entrenched position and benefiting from a position is not going to be very open to change. And that is the situation today across regardless of which party or which leadership you may be talking about. I think it's a very generic comment that I'm making. If real change has to come, it has to come from civil society, not from the political class. The political class has too much at stake in the current system to really want to change it. The civil society is the one who has to bring that change. So working with civil society is the way to do it. And youth is a very important component of that. Making change happen from within is another approach, but that becomes more evolutionary rather than revolutionary. So it's a longer process. It has to be slow and steady process. It can happen, but I wouldn't call that a revolution in that case, but an evolution. So what do you have the appetite for? You have to ask yourself. Because taking the revolutionary approach, there's a lot of hardship, and you have to have a lot of appetite for enduring hardships and facing challenges.
సార్ నమస్తే సార్, నా పేరు సంపత్ అండి. సార్, రాజకీయ వ్యవస్థ అనేది అదొక గొప్ప వ్యవస్థ. యువత అందులోకి రావాలనుకుంటున్నారు, కానీ అంటే రానున్న ఎన్నికల్లో యువత పార్టిసిపేట్ చేయాలనుకుంటే వాళ్ళకి చాలా డిఫికల్టీస్ ఎదురవుతాయి సార్. ఆ డిఫికల్టీస్ ఎలా ఎదుర్కోవాలి? యువత రాజకీయాల్లోకి రావాలనుకుంటున్న యువతకి మీరు ఇచ్చే సలహా సూచనలు, మీరు ఇచ్చే గైడెన్స్ అయితే చెప్పండి సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. అంటే ఇప్పుడు నేను కూడా ఎంత అడ్వాంటేజ్ ఉన్నా కూడా 22 సంవత్సరాలు పట్టింది నాకు ఎంటర్ అయ్యేదానికి. ఎందుకంటే ప్రతి పార్టీ చెప్తా ఉంటారు, యూత్ కావాలి, మాకు ఎడ్యుకేటెడ్ పీపుల్ కావాలా, ప్రొఫెషనల్స్ కావాలా అని మాటలు బాగా చెప్తారు, కానీ ఆపర్చునిటీ ఇచ్చేటప్పటికి అది అన్ని మర్చిపోతారు. ఇన్ఫ్యాక్ట్ వాట్ ఐ నోటిస్డ్ ఇస్ దట్, I don't want to make it sound very bad, but I'm saying that, even after making a decision to enter, I was not able to get an opportunity for many years, in spite of all the advantages that I have. It's not an easy thing for anyone to get that entry. And if you have a commitment, you have to be ready to face a lot of disappointments, and you have to be ready to face a lot of hardships, and you have to keep fighting and keep yourself relevant until you make that breakthrough. If you don't have a patadal lakpote, if this field is not going to be suitable for you, because it's going to be full of disappointments. You have to be ready to face those disappointments, and you have to persevere. And if you keep persevering, one day you'll definitely get your chance.
Rahul, you can go next.
Yeah, hello, Jayadev Garu. I'm Rahul from Hyderabad. If you were to be a youth parliamentarian like us, and if you were to step into active politics, what advice, how would you start off, and what advice would you give to your younger self, is what I wanted to ask.
If I was, I don't think I understood the question. If I was in youth parliament,
So, for example, if you were at the stage where we are right now, how would you start off as a your political career? And that's one part of the question. And the second part is, what advice would you give to your younger self? Maybe the one who was in 1992 or 1990.
I would give the same advice I was giving in the beginning of the session today, that get involved in organizations that allow you to keep in touch with the topical issues, economic issues, political issues, global issues. You know, on a normal basis as a student or even as a professional working, you're focused only on the subjects that you have to be delivering results on, whether it's classes you're taking or assignments that you have in your professional career. You don't really have much scope to have a wider view of what's happening in the state, in the country, and in the world. So being involved in organizations like this or in many other organizations, there are student organizations, there are professional organizations, there are various types of organizations to keep yourself up to date on the issues that are important to people. Second thing is, if you're really interested in electoral politics, then you have to start nurturing a constituency. But at the same time, that is I'll give you just my example. When I first moved to India, I always felt that I'm going to contest for parliament from Chittoor. So because I'm born in Chittoor, my family is in Chittoor, our factories are in Chittoor, our employees are everything is in Chittoor. But in 2009 delimitation, Chittoor became a reserved constituency. If it had not happened, maybe I would have entered in 2009 itself. But because that became a reserved constituency, suddenly I was confused. I didn't know what I'm supposed to do. It took me 10 years to figure that out again, because I didn't contest in 2009, 14 also I didn't. 2009 I didn't. It took me 5 years to figure it out. 2009 I didn't contest. Finally, 2014 I made a decision to shift to Guntur and contest. So, in spite of having nurtured Chittoor for my grandfather had been MP from that constituency, my mother has been representing from Chandagiri, which is part of Chittoor constituency. I was not able to contest from there. But you need to be able to identify maybe 1 or 2 or 3 different options, start doing some work in those places, getting to know the people. The best way to do it is through some type of social service where you're interacting with politicians, maybe from different parties, and you're interacting with the public by serving some needs of the public. That's always a good way to do it. And I would suggest to not join any party until you're ready to make an entry, because you need to keep your options open. It's a very dynamic environment. Even though I was helping my mother and campaigning for my mother, I did not become a registered member of any party. I remained neutral until I decided to enter politics. I think it was only in just before the bifurcation of our state, 2013 it was bifurcated. 2012, I think I officially joined Congress Party at that time. And after the bifurcation, I officially left the Congress Party also. And then after that, I joined TDP and contested from Guntur. So what I had in mind that I'm going to contest on Congress ticket in Chittoor, within 5 years, it became I'm contesting on TDP ticket from Guntur, right? So your plans always may not work out exactly the way that you expect, but that experiences definitely help you no matter what decision you finally make.
Akash, you can ask them.
Yes, a very good afternoon and happy Independence Day to you. I really thank you for interacting with us. So one thing I would like to take from your own experience, and you probably already know that hasn't changed, is that youth are still very influenced. Parents are a big part of their lives and career decision making, especially middle class families. It is still 2020, but the choice is not gone beyond doctors or engineering. And with all that pressure, you say that one has to enter a career path, lose, get some experiences, and then enter politics. But many people already feel like they failed in their colleges where they're trying to study or perfect or form the foundation for something which they didn't want to, and they're already getting those experiences, and they're not ready to wait anymore. And so how does one change from that career path to anything else, and get those experiences that you're talking about when they already feel that they've had enough? So how do we bring about a change in this? It's been long from your from your time to our time. It's still the same, and that is something which we are not having the opportunity to change. So based on that, what are your opinions?
See, it's not an easy question to answer, because the parents are always going to be concerned about the careers of their children, and they want you to take a safe route where there's some level of comfort that you're going to get a job, you're going to get a salary, you'll be able to provide for your family. I mean, these are the kind of things, they want. Every Indian parent wants their children to be either a doctor or engineer or a chartered accountant, or maybe I don't know, IAS is maybe another option. I mean, there's a very standard set of things that they want you to be, and it's because our country is a developing country, and people have faced a lot of economic hardships in their recent memories also, and they'll be very cautious and very careful, and will want their children to be that way also. So it's not an easy question to answer, but Indian education system also has to transform a lot. I mean, if you look at my case, I was able to transfer from engineering to political science in the same college, same university, and I lost a little bit of time in the process, but it was possible still. In India, I don't know how easy it is to switch from one subject to another. And there are not that many universities that have so many different subjects. And even there, will they allow you to switch from subject to subject like that? And it's still very unclear. So there's a risk. If you want to study politics and you want to enter politics before having done anything else, it's a very risky proposition, which is why I'm saying that whatever field you choose to go in can have a path to politics. I may have studied politics that's helping me today. Even if I had completed engineering and worked in an engineering job in US and then come back and done whatever I did, I could have still done I could have still done what I've done, right? So I think keeping in mind that any path can lead to politics, because politics requires diversity of experiences. Politics can, as a politician, especially as a legislator, whether in state or in the center, you're making policies on such a wide range of subjects. And each of those subjects requires technical expertise. No one individual is going to have technical expertise on every subject. So as long as you have technical expertise in something, you will be of value and you will be able to add value. So I think each of you would have to analyze your own unique situations and understand how much risk you're ready to take. understand what your financial condition and financial requirements are, how you're going to meet those. I think you have to take care of certain basic requirements first. But whatever you do, whether you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a chartered accountant, you're a lawyer, there's a path to politics.
Thank you, sir. So it's 1 o'clock, but if you can give us 10 more times, I think there are 4 more people who want to ask a question. Can I go ahead with them, sir?
I can take 2 more questions.
Okay. Vamsi Krishna, can you go ahead?
Hello, sir. This is Vamsi. Sir, in any system, there may be people whose voice is unheard, or like the.
I'm not able to hear. Can you speak a little louder, please?
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, mic దగ్గర కొంచెం మాట్లాడండి.
Okay. Sir, na point ఏంటంటే, sir, in any system there might be few people's voice which gets unheard. As a member of parliament of a constituency, what steps do you take to listen to the voice which is unheard, or voice of the people who are oppressed? And whenever the system is stronger, there will be certain section or certain people who get, whose voice get oppressed, be it in education system or any other system. So what style or what steps do you take to hear the voice of the losing side, sir?
So that, I mean, I think you have to basically, a strong organization is important where you have ties to every area in your constituency. You know, I have I'll give you my own example. I have an office in Guntur with a permanent staff of about almost 10 people who run that office. Anybody can walk in at any point of time as long as the office is open with their problems or their issues or their grievances or whatever they may have. Public, it doesn't matter. You know, at that point of time when I'm interacting with public, I don't look at which party they're from or which caste they're from or anything else. Anybody who walks in with any kind of legitimate issue, we try to solve it. And we take up a lot of programs where we go deep into rural areas or into urban areas on house-to-house, door-to-door type of campaigns also for the party, not only during elections, but even periodically throughout the year on various subjects to interact with them. So there's a lot of forums provided to get that feedback. But if somebody doesn't want to access those forums or put in a little bit of effort to utilize those forums, then that voice is going to be left unheard. There's not much we can do. There needs to be, you know, it's not that I can go to every nook and corner and extract feedback from somebody who's not ready to take any effort to do it also. That's not possible. It's a two-way street. We can provide platforms and opportunities, but then people have to utilize those platforms and opportunities. And if they don't, their voice is going to remain silent.
Thank you. The last question will be from Shyam Suraj.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Shyam Suraj. And my final question to you will be on a personal note, is that how do you strike a work-life balance? And what would your advice be for an aspiring leader to manage his work and political career along with his personal life?
Yeah, I have some very strong views about this. First of all, I don't believe in work-life balance. If you separate work from life, I think you've already lost the plot. Work is part of life. It's not separate from life. So if you say work is not life, you already accepted the fact that work is something that is not desirable and something you need to limit and something you need to balance. And what is life then, right? Many people, when they think of work-life balance, they think how much time I'm spending at office and how much time I'm spending at home. That is not a work-life balance, right? Being at home is a family time. Being at work is a work time. Work-life balance means the individual has to have a balance in his own life also. If 100% of your time is devoted to either work or family, that's also not a balance. So first of all, you need to think that, rather than thinking of work-life balance, I like to think of harmony in terms of space, time, and energy. Instead of thinking work and life, think about space, time, and energy. Do I have is there a harmony that I'm able to create in my life as a whole, as I manage the space that I have for myself, the time that I have for myself, and the energy? Am I able to maintain these three in balance? I think would be a better way to look at it. My own personal experience for the last 30 years since I've been working in India, I travel 15 days a month. And that has been the case right from the beginning, whether I was in business or in politics. The type of travel has only changed. Initially, when I was handling marketing and sales, all my travel was to different cities in India to establish the marketing network, distribution network, the sales and service networks. So I was traveling all over Indian subcontinent doing that, as well as some international travel. Then as I moved up into more general management, it became more of international travel and also travel to be involved in these various organizations like CII, YI, YPO, all the other organizations that I was actively involved in. Now that I've entered politics, it's become only 3 cities that I keep visiting: Delhi, Guntur, Tirupati, and then home in Hyderabad. I hardly go anywhere else nowadays, but I'm still gone at least 15 days in a month. And now it's come to a point where, before the COVID crisis started, for the last 6 years, it was very rare to stay in any one city more than 2 days at a stretch before moving on to the next city. So this is, while doing all of this, there's technology, there's ways to keep in touch. So as long as you're able to maintain thinking about time, energy, and space, and how am I getting that in harmony, that's a better way to look at it, is my opinion.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm sure this interaction would have given a lot of insights on how tough is politics, or how easy we generally think. Some people, or generally they think people with certain amount of privilege or certain amount of advantages, a lot of us assume that politics is easy for them, but the reality for people who work with them is true. It's
let me also, Shravan, on that note, let me also say one thing, because it's very important. I think you all need to understand that whatever strengths that I thought I had before I entered politics have now become weaknesses, right? Being honest is a weakness. Being independent is a weakness. Being financially secure is a weakness. Being non-corrupt is a weakness, right? All the things that I had to develop, spend my whole life developing my values and my capabilities and my skills. Once I entered politics, now they're being viewed as weaknesses rather than strengths, right? So these are things that you have to contend with and you have to be able to face. Even after you enter politics, there's no shortage of challenges. If you want to do things in the right way, you're going to be attacked, you're going to be crucified, you're going to be dragged to court, you're going to be thrown in jail, and all of these things have happened to me, right? So you have to be ready to face the music, no matter what. As hard as it is to enter, it's 10 times harder to continue if you want to do things in the right way.
Very true, sir. I think one last request from our side would be we would like to send to your team the discussions that happens in the house tomorrow, and also the drafts of the bills both the teams have made, and maybe some subsequently the team will also engage with your office on sending you some notes and some questions for the upcoming session, so that some young people, what are the questions they have to raise, or what are the questions they want to get heard in the parliament from their side. We would like to use you as a medium for us to get some of these voices to be heard in the parliament through our representatives.
Yeah, it would be a very good resource for me also. I think Ram Mohan and myself both are there together, and we can. Nani is our third MP, three of us in Lok Sabha, and Ravindra Kumar Garu in Rajya Sabha from our party. Only four of us, but I think we're a powerful team, and we're making our mark in both the houses and in Parliament. And it would be very. I'd be very happy and pleased to work with you to get more inputs and information to help us do our job there in Delhi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your time and having this conversation with us.
Okay. Thank you. All the best to you and happy Independence Day. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So